They ruled over one of the most powerpharaohs civilizations in history. They lived 3,000 years ago and they're dead, and I'm obsessed. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to look at three things. First, how did the pharaohs rise to power? Second, how did they build these elaborate tombs to ensure their safe passage into the afterlife? And third, what are some of the hidden treasures buried alongside the pharaohs? And what do they tell us about their journey to the next world? Let's get started. The first pharaohs rose to power around 3100 BC, when Egypt was still a collection of small kingdoms divided by the deserts and the Nile River. But over time, these kingdoms were united under the rule of a single king, who would become known as the Pharaoh. This process of unifying Egypt would be repeated many times throughout history, but perhaps the most famous example is the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt by King Narmer. According to legend, Narmer was the first king of Egypt's first dynasty, and he is credited with uniting the two lands and establishing a new capital at Memphis. The traditional date for Narmer's reign is 3100 to 3000 BC. Although some scholars debate these dates and there is no consensus, it's unclear how exactly Narmer accomplished this feat. But it is likely that he benefited from a period of stability and prosperity in Egypt following the end of the previous era, known as the Naqada period. As the first pharaoh, Narmer is often depicted wearing the distinctive double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt and holding a symbol of power such as a crook and flail, representing his role as a shepherd of his people. Although much of what we know about Narmer comes from later historical accounts and traditions, his legacy as the founder of the Egyptian kingdom continued to be celebrated throughout history, and he remained an important symbol of Egyptian kingship. But what made the pharaoh special? The answer lies in the way that the Egyptians viewed their kings. You see, they believed that the pharaoh wasn't just a human ruler, but was actually a divine king, a physical manifestation of a god walking among mortals. Now, don't get me wrong, the pharaoh was still very much a man capable of great deeds, but also capable of great evil. But the Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's connection to the gods gave him a certain power, a power that could be used for good or for evil. When the pharaoh was a good and just ruler, he was seen as a blessing from the gods, and the country enjoyed peace and prosperity. But when the pharaoh became corrupt or weak, it was believed that the gods would abandon him and Egypt would descend into chaos and war. This belief in the pharaoh's divine kingship led to the construction of monumental tombs to honor and preserve their remains. These tombs served as a physical manifestation of the pharaoh's power and legacy, and they were designed to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage into the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife was a perilous one, and it was fraught with danger and challenges. It was believed that the pharaoh would have to travel through the underworld and face a number of obstacles before reaching the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise. To help the pharaoh on his journey, the Egyptians would bury treasure in their tombs, including food, weapons, and even chariots and boats, to ensure that the pharaoh had everything he needed to make the journey. In addition, the Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's body had to be preserved in order to ensure his successful passage to the afterlife, and this led to the development of the art of mummification. Mummification was a complex and lengthy process that involved removing the internal organs, dehydrating the body, and wrapping it in layers of linen. The mummified body was then placed in a coffin and buried in the tomb along with the treasure. Overall, the Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife was a sacred and important one, and they took great care to ensure that the pharaoh was prepared for the journey and that the pharaoh's soul would be able to rest in peace. Now let's talk about those tombs. Most people think of pyramids when they imagine a pharaoh's tomb, but the truth is that there were many different types of tombs built throughout history. The earliest tombs were simple and modest, but as the power and wealth of the pharaohs grew, so did the size and complexity of their tombs. For example, during the Old Kingdom period, pharaohs were buried in mastabas, which were rectangular structures with a flat roof. The mastaba was essentially a large rectangular box made of stone that served as the final resting place for the pharaoh. Some mastabas were simple and unadorned, while others featured decorative reliefs and hieroglyphs. The mastaba was typically built above ground and could be accessed through a shaft or passageway leading to a burial chamber inside. But as the Egyptian civilization progressed, so did its beliefs and practices surrounding death and the afterlife. During the 4th dynasty, the Egyptians began constructing massive pyramids as tombs for their pharaohs. The pyramids were intended to serve as a physical manifestation of the Pharaoh's power and legacy, and were designed to protect and preserve the Pharaoh's remains for eternity. Each pyramid was a monumental undertaking that required thousands of workers and resources to construct. They were built with massive blocks of stone that were hauled and lifted into place using ramps and levers. The resulting structure was a towering monument that could be seen for miles and served as a reminder of the Pharaoh's greatness. However, not all pharaohs were buried in pyramids. During the New Kingdom period, some pharaohs were buried in the Valley of the Kings, which is located near the modern-day city of Luxor. The Valley of the Kings was a necropolis where many pharaohs and nobles were buried in rock-cut tombs. These tombs were typically carved deep into the hillside and were decorated with colorful paintings and hieroglyphics, depicting scenes from Egyptian mythology and the Pharaoh's life. One of the most famous examples of a tomb in the Valley of the Kings is that of King Tut, whose tomb was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. Speaking of Howard Carter, let's now discuss the hidden treasures buried alongside the pharaoh. What are some of the most valuable artifacts ever found in a pharaoh's tomb, and how do they reveal the secrets of the journey to the afterlife? One of the most famous discoveries from a pharaoh's tomb was made by archaeologists. Howard Carter in 1922 when he discovered the tomb of King Tut. The tomb contained a wealth of treasures, including over 5,000 artifacts such as jewelry, furniture, and chariots. These treasures provided valuable insights into the daily life of the Egyptian royal court and the rituals and beliefs surrounding death and the afterlife. Among the most valuable artifacts found in Tutankhamun's tomb were a golden funerary mask, believed to have been crafted by one of the greatest artists of the Amarna period. The mask was designed to encase the mummy and was adorned with precious stones and gold leaf. The discovery of the mask helped to confirm the identity of the mummy found in the tomb, and provided a rare glimpse into the artistic skill of the ancient Egyptians. Another valuable artifact was the so-called sunboat, a series of 7 papyrus mats that depicted a solar bark or boat used by the sun god Ra in Egyptian mythology. The mats were believed to have been part of a larger funerary text that was designed to guide the deceased pharaoh on his journey through the underworld. The sunboat papyrus is now considered one of the most important pieces of funerary literature from ancient Egypt, and has provided valuable insights into the Egyptian beliefs and practices surrounding death and the afterlife. Beyond the treasures found in King Tut's tomb, there are many other valuable artifacts that have been unearthed from pharaohs' tombs throughout history. For example, the bust of Nefertiti found in 1912 is one of the most iconic pieces of ancient Egyptian art and provides a rare portrait of a female ruler during the 18th dynasty. The Rosetta Stone discovered in 1799 is a granite stele inscribed with a decree issued at the Egyptian city of Rosetta in 196 BC. The stone was instrumental in the decipherment of hieroglyphic writing, and has provided an invaluable resource for understanding ancient Egyptian culture and history. These are just a few examples of the many valuable artifacts that have been found in pharaohs' tombs. Each artifact provides a unique window into the ancient Egyptian world and helps us to better understand the culture, beliefs, and practices of one of history's most fascinating civilizations. As we wrap up our discussion of the hidden treasures buried alongside the pharaohs, it's important to remember that each artifact tells a story. They offer a glimpse into the beliefs, values, and traditions of the ancient Egyptians and provide a tangible connection to a long-lost civilization. By studying these artifacts, we can learn about the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife and gain a deeper understanding of their place in history. So the next time you think of the pharaohs, take a moment to appreciate the rich legacy of treasures that they left behind. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the tombs of the pharaohs. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share. And if you'd like to continue exploring the wonders of ancient Egypt, be sure to check out my other videos. Until next time, happy excavating.